today I'm going to explain the 2011 movie War Horse. 1912. A boy named Albert sees the birth of a thoroughbred riding horse and later watches with admiration as the foal grows, running through the fields with its mother. When it grows up, they take him to town to sell him at auction. Albert's father, Ted, comes to buy a workhorse for the farm. But when he saw the young stallion, the man's eyes lit up. He begins to bargain for him with his landlord, though a friend discouraged the man, because this horse has never worked a day. Ted, not wanting to lose to his landlord, hikes the price higher and higher. Eventually he managed to buy it, but at a very inflated price. Heading home with the horse, the landlord reminds him that the rent is due soon. Back at home, his wife Rosie meets him and immediately realizes that this horse is not for working on the farm. And when she finds out how much Ted bought it for, she asks him to give it back. Because with his sore foot, he won't even be able to ride the horse. Albert intervenes, asking not to give up the horse and promising to ride it. Rosa is not satisfied, but agrees. Albert trains the horse, whom he has nicknamed Joey, all day long. His best friend, Andrew, watches as Albert teaches the horse to perform various commands, such as coming up to his master when he woos like the owl. When it's time to pay the rent, Ted has only a fraction of the amount. He asks the landlord for an extension, promising to plough the uncultivated rocky field and sow it. Which the landlord finds hard to believe, for he is sure Ted cannot even harness that horse. Nevertheless, he agrees, promising a reprieve until October if the horse will able to plough that field. Drunk Ted goes to the barn, wanting to harness the horse. But it only frightens him, and the horse rears up and strikes its owner. Ted grabs his gun, saying that if he cannot plough, why feed him? But Albert comes between them, who promises to plough the field on time. The deadline day of the landlord's contract comes. Albert comes to the barn and tries to harness Joey, first putting him on himself and then on the horse. The landlord arrives at the farm and walks up to Ted, belittling him by saying he gave him the farm to rent for nothing. Albert harnesses Joey to the plow, but the horse doesn't understand what he wants and stands still. Realizing that a whip is necessary, Albert whips the horse, and he drags the boy across the field with a swing. It makes the landlord laugh. Rose watches anxiously from the house. Upstairs, Albert sees people converging from all over the neighborhood to see how the argument will end. Despite his best efforts, he fails to drive the plow into the ground. A thunderstorm breaks out, and when he realizes he can't make it, people begin to disperse. The landlord tells Ted to have the farm cleared by Tuesday. But Albert notices that the rain has soaked the ground and he manages to drive the plow into the ground. His mother runs outside and watches him. The men see the boy's success and the landlord comes up to Rosa and advises her not to let her son plow in the rain, for he might cut his leg off. To which the woman puts him in his place. After a while, Albert sits tired on the ground. His parents and friends run up to him and take him inside. While the boy treats Joey's wounds, Albert's mother shows her son the medals his father received while serving as a sergeant in Africa. While badly wounded, he performed heroically on the battlefield and was awarded the Distinguished Service Medal. Rose gives his son the pennant of his father's regiment, explaining that his father is not proud of his military prowess. He once threw away both the banner and all the medals, but his mother secretly took them away and kept them. His father sowed the field, and while he is tilling it, Albert rides Joey, having a race with the landlord's son. But he falls off his horse when he wants to jump the fence. A heavy downpour begins, and after the seed discovers that the entire crop has been destroyed. The father is torn up and does not know what to do to save the farm. Meanwhile, the First World War begins. When Albert arrives at the barn, Joey is not found there, and running to his mother, he realizes that his father has decided to sell the horse. He is bought by Cavalry Captain Nichols, an officer from the regiment that passed through the village. When the deal is done, Albert runs in and begs the military man not to take Joey away. The captain reassures the boy, promising that he will take care of the horse, and after the war, if he is lucky, he will bring him home. Then Albert tries to enlist in the army, but does not pass due to his age. Before Nichols leaves with Joey, Albert ties his father's flag to his horse's bridle, and watches as Joey is led away. He is brought to the camp, where he is tied up near the handsome black stallion Tapter. Nichols comes in with the regimental commander there. They argue whose horse is faster. And the commander says they can find out tomorrow at the training offensive. On the morning of the attack, Tapter and Joey go head to head, but Nichols manages to pull ahead at the end. When the regimental commander walks into headquarters, he sees Nichols drawing a portrait of Joey to send along with a letter to Albert. In the morning, the regiment is camped out. Scouts report a German camp nearby. The commander decides to attack them, taking advantage by the surprise effect. The cavalry attacks the unsuspecting Germans and drives them into the woods, where they have machine gun points, and we see the horses themselves running into the woods. The machine gunner aims at Nichols and he knows it's the end. The Germans catch Joey and Tapter, though they send them to drag the cannons, which leads to the imminent death of the horses. One of the German soldiers offers to harness them to medical carts. Gunther and his brother first try to harness Tapter, but he does not budge until Joey runs up to him and puts his head in the harness. Gunther unties Albert's father's flag and slips it into his pocket. At this time, a letter arrives at the farm from the front. There, Albert finds Nichols' notebook with Joey's portraits and a letter. It says that Nichols was killed in action. The German soldiers want to be sent to the front, but the commander tells Gunner to stay behind to look after the horses. And he refuses his request to leave his brother with him. Gunther promises to protect his brother, and offers to let him escape, but he refuses. He ties the flag he took off Joey to his backpack. And after saddling Joey and Tapter, he catches up with the caravan and pulls his brother out. The boys arrive at the old mill, where they hide, wanting to escape to Italy. But they don't make it. The Germans find them at night and shoot them near the mill. After this, the little girl Emily, who lives on the farm with her grandfather, finds 2 horses in the mill. She suffers from a disease that makes her bones brittle, and her grandfather, afraid her granddaughter will fall, does not allow the girl to ride. She tries to teach Joey to ride over obstacles, but German soldiers arrive. Grandpa tells her to hide the horses. The German captain promises to return when the next crop comes. While the soldiers gather supplies for the front, Emily hides the horses in her room. Every day, the front gets closer and closer to them. And Emily's grandfather gives her a saddle for her birthday. After putting her on the horse, he asks her to ride carefully, and sees the girl ride Joey up the hill and hide behind it. Realizing she has been gone too long, he climbs to the top and sees German soldiers trying to catch her. After dragging the girl to the ground, Grandpa asks to take Tapter away and keep Joey. But the commander refuses, saying that they are needed to carry the guns. And I will do it until they die or the war is over. The grandfather and granddaughter hug and watch as they are taken away. Joey and Tapter are forced to pull cannons. In front of them, the horses doing the job, die one after another, but the 2 of them are looked after by a German soldier, Friedrich, who loves horses and tries to make their lot easier. Meanwhile, the year is 1918 and Albert is at the front with his friend and the son of a landlord, and they are preparing for an offensive. Before the battle begins, the commander orders Andrew to stay behind so no one runs back. During the attack, the landlord's son is wounded and Albert takes him to safety place. After that he blows up an enemy machine gun point with a grenade. Andrew sees several comrades running back. He hesitates to shoot them and runs into the attack. After sneaking into the enemy trenches, Albert searches for survivors and Headley shoots Andrew, who comes up from behind. While they are looking for a way out, the Germans shoot gas into the trench, which hits Andrew. At this time Friedrich notices that Tapter is wounded and takes them aside to rest. Exhausted by the hard work, the horse dies. The enemy attack begins and the German soldiers drag Friedrich away. Joey sees a tank and, frightened, runs away. He jumps over the car and runs away, jumping over the trenches. The horse falls into one of them and runs through it, until he gets to the battlefield and gets hooked on the barbed wire, and falls down without strength. After a while Captain Allen notices a horse on no man's land. The British try to call him out but realize that he is confused. Colin raises the white flag and decides to go to him in spite of the commander's orders. Near Joey, he meets a German soldier who also wants to help the horse. As the guys cut the barbed wire, they discuss trench life. Finally freeing Joey, they flip a coin to decide who the horse goes to. Colin wins and takes him to his trench. At this time, Albert and the landlord's son sit in the trench in our infirmary, temporarily blinded by gas. They are taken to the stationary infirmary, where Joey is also brought. The doctor examines the horse's wounds and says he cannot be cured and orders the animals to be put out of their misery. Albert asks what the noise is outside and is told of a miracle horse that survived the line of death. The commander pulls out his gun and aims it at Joey, but the horse hears the sound of an owl hooting. The crowd of soldiers disperses and we see Albert walking toward him. Calling him again, Joey runs up to the guy and Albert tells the doctor it's his horse, pointing to the white stockings on his legs and the diamond on his head, but the doctor doesn't believe him, as he sees that the horse is completely naked. Nicola points out that he is just dirty, and after scrubbing his feet and muzzle, everyone is convinced that the guy is not lying. The doctor promises to cure him no matter what. A couple of days later it is announced that the war is over, but the command has decided to auction off all the horses, despite Albert's requests. Leading Joey out of the barn, Albert was met by a crowd of soldiers who decided to chip in to help him ransom his friend. At the auction, the local butcher raises the bid to £30, more than the entire amount raised by Albert's comrades. It would seem that the horse is doomed. It will get to the butcher, but then Emily's grandfather appears and declares that he will pay £100, and if it is not enough he is ready to sell his coat, and if even then he will not have enough money he will sell the farm and pay £1,000. The horse gets him and the old man is about to take away the purchase. Albert catches up with him and asks him to give it to Joey. To which the old man explains that his granddaughter has died and he has walked for 3 days to buy a miracle horse for the sake of her memory, but Joey breaks away and runs to Albert, who is happy that they have both managed to survive. The boy realizes that the horse is no longer his and takes his friend to the old man. He pulls out a shabby standard and asks Albert what it is. He immediately recognizes his father's flag. The old man, convinced that the horse belongs to the young man by right, gives it to Joey along with the flag, taking nothing in return. Joey returns home to his parents together with his master, hugging his mother and coming up to his father gives him the flag. The latter firmly shakes hands with the mature son who has been through the war. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed my recap, support me by like and subscribing to the channel.